Minglaba, a good puchame tingan zagaro, Sarutani, Dataniga Pida, Tubu John Miadre. Philosophy of Science 1, Chapter-3a, the nature of hypothesis and explanation so that Kanabe Pipare. The nature of hypothesis and explanation. Twisa Jenny, Shilin Piata Genoi, the Botawa. What is hypothesis? A hypothesis is a proposed explanation for a phenomenon. Twisa Jet Kusura, Pia de Kudre, a so beautiful Pishin Jet Kubepite. Any Twisa Jeha, take Banija Twisa Jet Kupiposoye, Santa Sisi Nabodre, take Banile Luade. Take Bambinashim Yaha, Yibua Apien, take Banija Twisa Jet Kugo, you came Pulo Kere, Tishu Lila Jimiago, a chicken tarty South Hayade. Even though the words hypothesis and theory are often used synonymously, a scientific hypothesis is not the same as a scientific theory. Twisa Jene theory Surya Wara Nakugo, Sindiyoma, Tongse Luishijare. Tabime, Taipa Nija, Twisa Jet Kuha, Taipa Nija theory to Kune, Aladram, Matuni Javu. A working hypothesis is a professionally accepted hypothesis proposed for further research. Taipa Nija Twisa Jet Kuha, a so beautiful Pishin Jet Kuda Pipi, Chacha Mama Sisia, Lo Anidire. Taipa Nija theory to Kugaro, Dido Sisi Mudugo, Jopia B. Pite. Teacher Pishin Jet Kuni Nele, Lekandabi Pite. Don't be Twisa Jet Kugaro, Jai Apin Lekandabi. Nauta Tutidnamia Piloyan Lo Ajang Asobujeta Pite. A different meaning of the term hypothesis is used in formal logic to denote the antecedent of a proposition. Thus, in the proposition if P, then Q, P denotes the hypothesis or antecedent. Q can be called a consequent. P is an assumption in what if question. Research hypothesis so that what I a child debate Kugaro, formal logic ma at the computer. A chinibi so ye she is so bangole, edilo, cosojare. Dajan, a gay, be pilling, Jupime so that asoma, bigo, hypothesis, Tomo, antecedent, she is so banglo, cosore. The conceptual usage of hypothesis in Western thought. In its ancient usage, hypothesis referred to a summary of the plot of a classical drama. The English word hypothesis comes from the ancient Greek hypothesis, meaning to put under or to suppose. Shiki Naudamara hypothesis Sure Waraha Piazza de Boye, Sana Jinjo Sure Depene, Atom Pugare. English Agalo hypothesis Surahale Muye Apien, Greek Waraga Sentelara Pite, a debegaro, Sinla Usaya, Hudo Adebe, Yare. In Plato's Meno, Socrates dissects virtue with the method used by mathematicians, that of investigating from a hypothesis. Plato's dialogue Jantakupite, Minoma. Socrates ha Tincha Pinya Shimya Atombure, Nitanine, Kaumya Chindiao, Quajan Sepia Chigere. Daha Twisa Jama Lila Tishu Jimmy, Pitem. In this sense, hypothesis refers to a clever idea or to a convenient mathematical approach that simplifies cumbersome calculations. The body aya Twisa Jet hypothesis ha Tomono Segu Tomo Shok Twimumiago, Yoshin Doazire, Tintore, Tinchania Chinkachin Surago, Unione. Cardinal Bellarmine gave a famous example of this usage in the warning issued to Galileo in the early 17th century, that he must not treat the motion of the earth as a reality, but merely as hypothesis. Twisa Hudo Wara Dumjubone, Patepi, ကြော်ကြားတဲ့ဥပမာတစ်ခုကိုကာဒီနယ်ဘယ်လာမင်းကပေးခဲ့တယ်19ရာစုအတွင်းကဂယ်လီလီယိုကိုသူကကမ္ဘာရဲ့ရွေးရှားမှုကိုအမှန်တရားဟုမယူဆပဲတွေးဆချက်တစ်ခုဖြစ်တာယူဆရန်ပြောခဲ့တဲ့ဥပမာပဲဖြစ်တယ် In common usage in the 21st century, a hypothesis refers to a provisional idea whose merit requires evaluation. 20ရာစုမှာတော့ hypothesis ဆိုတဲ့ဝါဒကိုသုံးစွဲတဲ့အခါယာယီယူဆတစ်ခုဖြစ်တာမှတ်ယူပြီးသူ့ရဲ့မှန်ကန်အကျိုးသက်ရောက်မှုများကိုသုံးသပ်အကဲဖြတ်ရန်လိုနေသေးတယ်လို့ဆိုလိုရင်းဖြစ်တယ် For proper evaluation, the framer of a hypothesis needs to define specifics in operational terms. မှန်ကန်တည်တော်စွာအကဲဖြတ်ရန်အတွက် hypothesis တွေးဆချက်ကိုချမှတ်သူဟာအသုံးချမဲ့ဝါဒအတိအကျကိုသတ်မှတ်ဖွင့်ဆိုရန်လိုအပ်တယ် A hypothesis requires more work by the researcher in order to either confirm or disprove it. တွေးဆချက် hypothesis တစ်ခုအတွက်သူတည်တည်များဖို့အတည်ပြုရန်သို့မဟုတ်ပယ်ဖျက်ရန်ပုံမအားထုတ်လုပ်ဆောင်ရမယ် In due course, a confirmed hypothesis may become part of a theory or occasionally may grow to become a theory itself. အကဲဖြတ်မှုပြီးစီးပြီးအတူပြုပြီးသောတွေးဆချက်တစ်ခုဟာ theory တစ်ခုရဲ့အစိပ်ပိုင်းဖြစ်နိုင်တယ်လို့သူကိုယ်တိုင်လည်း theory တစ်ခုသီးသန့်ဖြစ်လာနိုင်တယ် Normally, scientific hypotheses have the form of mathematical model. ပုံမှန်အားဖြင့်ဆိုရင်သိပ္ပံနည်းကျတွေးဆချက်များဟာသင်္ချာပုံစံ formula ပုံစံရှိကြတယ် Any useful hypothesis will enable predictions by reasoning. အသုံးဝင်သည့်မြည်သည့်တွေးဆချက်မဆိုစင်ကြင်တွေးဆခြင်းဖြင့်ကြိုတင်ခန့်မှန်းဟောကိန်းထုတ်ခြင်းစွမ်းရည်ရှိရမယ် It might predict the outcome of an experiment in a laboratory setting or the observation of a phenomenon in nature. တခါကနေ့မှာထိန်းချုပ်စမ်းသပ်မှုအတွက်ဖြစ်စေတဘာဝဖြစ်ရများအတိုင်းကြည့်ရှုလေ့လာရမှာဖြစ်စေရက်လက်များကိုတွေးဆချက်ကကြိုတင်တွက်ဆနိုင်ရမယ် The prediction may also invoke statistics and only talk about probabilities. ကြိုတင်ဟောကိန်းထုတ်ခြင်းဟာစီးရင်သဘောတစ်ခုဖော်ထုတ်ကောင်းဖော်ထုတ်ပေးမည်သူ့ရဲ့တန်ဖိုးဟာလည်းပဲဖြစ်တယ်ကြည်တာရှိရမယ် Karl Popper, following others, has argued that a hypothesis must be falsifiable and that one cannot regard a proposition or theory as scientific if it does not admit the possibility of being shown false. ပညာရှင်ကားပေါ်ပါနဲ့အခြားသောပညာရှင်များကဆိုကြတာကတွေးဆချက်တစ်ခုဟာမှားနိုင်ခြေရှိရမယ်အကယ်၍အဆိုတစ်ခုသို့မဟုတ် theory တစ်ခုဟာမှားနိုင်ခြေရှိခြင်းသဘောမပါဘူးဆိုပါကအဲ့ဒီအဆိုအဲ့ဒီ theory ကိုသိပ္ပံနည်းကြတယ်လို့မဆိုနိုင်ဘူးလို့ဆိုခဲ့တယ် In framing the hypothesis, the investigator must not currently know the outcome of a test or that it remains reasonably under continuing investigation. တွေးဆချက်တစ်ခုကိုတိဆောက်ရမှာလေ့လာစူးစမ်းသူဟာစမ်းသပ်မှုရဲ့ရလဒ်ကိုလက်တလောသိမှာမဟုတ်သလိုဆက်လက်စူးစမ်းရန်အတွက်လည်းကြောင်းကျိုးစီလျော်စွာရှိနေရအောင်မယ် Only in such cases does not experiment, test or study potentially increase the probability of showing the truth of a hypothesis. ဒီလိုအခြေအနေမျိုးများသာလျှင်လက်တွေ့စမ်းသပ်ခြင်းနဲ့ဖြစ်နိုင်ခြင်းများကိုစမ်းစစ်ခြင်းဖြင့်တွေးဆချက်မှန်ကန်မှုကိုပြသနိုင်မယ် Scientific hypothesis သိပ္ပံနည်းကျတွေးဆချက် People refer to a trial solution to a problem as a hypothesis, often called an educated guess, because it provides a suggested solution based on the evidence. လူများကပြဿနာတည်းယာယီဖြေကိုတွေးဆချက်လို့ရည်ညွှန်းတယ်လို့တချို့ကလည်း educated guess လို့လည်းခေါ်ဆိုကြတယ်။ဘာကြောင့်လဲဆိုတော့အထောက်အထားများအပေါ်အခြေခံပြီးအကြံပြုထားတဲ့အဖြေတစ်ခုသာဖြစ်တဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်ဖြစ်တယ်။ Some scientists reject the term educated guess as incorrect. Educated guess experimenters may test and reject several hypotheses before solving the problem. Research go don't be Pietana Mapishingema, let we send them to Miaga, Santa P. Research Pegang, Pejame. Its application can be divided into 4 stages. 1. Identify the hypothesis to be tested. 2. Generate predictions from the hypothesis. 3. Use experiments to check whether predictions are correct. 4. If the predictions are correct, then the hypothesis is confirmed. If not, then the hypothesis is disconfirmed. Research go Tombujima Saint Lise Quajanane. Take Sandamet research go Tatamama Piwame. Ne research gane Yalago Jotin Toyame. Though Kamaya Yala Yamia Letri Santayame. Lee Akayu Kamanya Manesoye research go a deep pipite. Kayu Kamanyala Mea Wusoye. Research a team pitching solo. Confirmation is not truth. A deep budgeti amandiam. In general, confirming the predictions of a theory increases the probability that a theory is correct. Even after theory to create during Hogging Tochimao, a deep budget, any theory mangamude pitayajigo mimazire. But in itself, this does not prove conclusively that the theory is correct. Todo theoria mandelu apidai tate piaje mohobu. To see why this is the case, we might present our reasoning as follows. If H, then P. P, therefore H. Dago, singing bongane piamesoye, okay, H pillion, B pime. Ku B pite, Dajan, H piamelo, solution pite. Here, H is our hypothesis. The batteries are dead. And P is a prediction. The player will function when the batteries are replaced. Dinyama, Duisaje H har, battery mia agonidi sura pipi. Jodin hogging bigaro. Battery mia lelaye set piane lolomi sura pite. This pattern of reasoning is, of course, not valid, since there might be reasons other than H that also bring about the truth of P. For example, it might be that the original batteries are actually fine, but they were not inserted properly. Mula battery mya kaunbi awin gunja te dunye mataji mya le pinane. Replacing the batteries would then restore the loose connection. Mula battery mya lele lai chindi lesi a sedomu mula dai pisijile pinane. So the fact that the prediction is true does not prove that the hypothesis is true. Dajang kamanje manyindi Twisaje Manigo Tuvuje Mobulo Sonane. We need to consider alternative hypotheses and see which is more likely to be true and which provides the best explanation of the prediction. Dinyama Chado Twisaje Miauleve Tede Sinlaya Luade. This confirmation need not be falsity. Ati Mepujindi Madihu Sojimao. Very often, a hypothesis generates a prediction only when given additional assumptions or auxiliary hypothesis. Majakana Sodro, Twisa Jemyaha, now said to the body Ayusamia, Peace to a Pideka Jama, Judin Hogging Tochimiago, Pulo Pinane. In such cases, when the prediction fails, the theory might still be correct. Edilo chini murima, Judin Hogging Toji, Maomino Leve, theory ha, Mamie, Mani Tate. Explanation and cognitive science. Shinlin Pyataji. We have never-ending succession of happening in the world. Digubaloga a pipiatua since Semabia Atomatana, Pipianijare. And the sciences, we have systematic and highly sophisticated method for managing, understanding happening. They Bambinama, di pipiatu, Taincho Nalinao, Sani Dija, season Tashi, Simi, Nimia, Shijare. A useful way of studying the methods of sciences are to imagine them as means for answering certain kinds of questions about happening. Teiban Nimia Ulila de Niama, a Donchala de Nila de Kugaro, Eri Teiban Nimiago, the Bawama Pipiani, the Zone Kudo, a Pipiamiana, Patepi, Migo Miago, Pishin, Nilamia Pie, Saitue, can you be Lila in Pite? There are many kinds of questions we can ask about happening. The Bawa Piana Patalu, Minane Miumo, Musalo, Miazwa Shide. For example, what happened and how did it happen, etc. Uma Apie, Ba Pitale, Belu Pitale, Sadiru Pite. To what question, scientists' answers were generalized and precise description of the world. To why and how, questions were generalized and precise explanation. What Bapitale Hugo Meguye Apirigaro, Yibuya Apimia Pipi, Loka Gie, Teacher de Teupo Piata Muribe Pite, Pajao, Belu Sure, Megunue Apigaro, the Bawa Loka Gie, Teacher Shinlin Piata Jemiabe Pite. Describing and explaining our linguistic activity. Teupo Piataji, describing it, Shinlin Piataji, explaining to her, Batazaga Saya, Abu Mumiabe Pite. A picture can take place a description, and a diagram, and explanation. Picture, Yobuntukua, Teupo Piataji, Sayunandalo, diagram, Gajatakua, Shinlin Piatajingo, Sayunane. Description must, for the most part, be given verbally. Description, Teupo Piatajingo, no Api, Miazo, Sayunjare. The process of description involves two sets. One, the selection of something to be subject of the description. Teupo Piatajima, Pisin Namunasa Shide, De, Teupo Piatame Ajonyago, Yuche Taji. 2. The recognition of the selected as belonging to a certain kind of possess a certain property. There are three elements recurred in the process of giving a description, and they are object, word, and symbol. Teupo Piame Ayama, the Zondiado, going Pansanyo. Timinyale, Pawane. Teupo Niama, Seban Domashide, Erarugaro, Yawutu, Segalomiane, Tingitaru Pite. The aim of science is to provide systematic and supported explanation. They Bambina Jimanjagaro, Sanichabi, Bambomu, Pinane, Shinin Piatamu Yago, Bebu Pite. To understand scientific enterprise, we have to understand requirement for the scientific explanation and also the structure of those. They Bambina Sao Nalebo, they Banija Shinin Piatamuna, Tuye, Tisau Tabo, Nalea, Luata. Explanation is answered to the question, why? Shinin Piatajin Sura, why? Pajaunle Sura Migo, Piso Jime Pite. For example, why did moisture form on the outside of the glass when it was filled as water yesterday? Uma Api Maniga Pangwetego, Jige Telate Kama, Pangwe Abinama, ဘာကြောင့်ရင်ငွေ့ရှိရတာလဲ 2. Why does ice float on water? ဘာကြောင့်ရေခဲဟာရေပေါ်မှာပေါ်ရတယ်လဲ 3. Why did Cassius plot the death of Caesar? ဘာကြောင့် Cassius ဟာ Julius Caesar ကိုတိုက်ရန်ကြံစည်ရတယ်လဲစသည်တို့ဖြစ်တယ် According to Nagel, there can be formed major patterns of explanation. ပညာရှင်နေရဲ့လူရကတော့ရှင်းလင်းပြသခြင်းနဲ့သက်ဆိုင်တဲ့အဓိကပုံစံကြီး၄ခုရှိတယ်လို့ဆိုတယ်ဒါတွေကတော့ 1. Deductive model 2. Probabilistic explanation 3. Functional or teleology explanation 4. Genetic explanation အခုပို့ချခဲ့တာကတော့ Philosophy of Science 1 Chapter-3 မှာ The Nature of Hypothesis and Explanation ဆိုတဲ့ကဏ္ဍဖြစ်ပါတယ် Philosophy of Science သိပ္ပံတဒနာဘာသာရပ်မှာဒီပိုင်းဟာအလွန်ရေးကြည့်တဲ့အပိုင်းဖြစ်ပါတယ်သိပ္ပံနဲ့နည်းပညာထွန်းကားနေတဲ့ယခုခေတ်လိုအချိန်ကာလမှာသိပ္ပံပညာသဘောတရားတွေကိုပုံမူသဘောပေါက်နားလည်ဖို့အတွက်အထူးလိုအပ်လာပါတယ်တွေးဆချက်ဆိုတဲ့သဘောတရားကိုသိခြင်းအဖြစ်သုတေသနလုပ်ငန်းများရဲ့အခြေခံစတင်ရာအုံမြစ်ဟာဘာလဲဆိုတာကိုသိခွင့်ရသွားနိုင်ပါတယ်ဆိုတဲ့အကြောင်းကိုပြောကြရင်ခုပို့ချချက်ကိုရနာလိုက်ပါတယ်